whatever you wind up doing is exactly what you should be doing.
And I have not behaved one single day of my life. Not one day of my life have I behaved, and I am fine.
I need your help. I can't tell you what it is. You can never ask me about it later, and we're going to hurt some people.
Whose car are we going to take?
It's Punxsutawney Phil!
National media scam. Punxsutawney Phil, the renowned groundhog weather predictor, he says there will be an early spring.
Woohoo! I know, right?
Agrees with Phil. His city of Eastford claims he has been 100% accurate. But Lucy the lobster in Nova Scotia, I lost the thread here. Lucy the lobster in Nova Scotia is not so fast. Apparently, the lobster saw her shadow, which means it'll be another 6 weeks of winter.
What?
Oh, there's more. BK Bob.
I didn't know there were so many animals.
I didn't either.
Armadillo will make his prediction this afternoon.
BK Bob.
In from Bee Cave, Texas. Yeah.
Thank you for joining us on the Nikki Medoro Show. Happy Groundhog's Day. And for those of you that are sick and tired of the cold weather, apparently Punxsutawney Phil did not see his shadow. So that means we are supposed to get an early spring. And we have a huge storm heading our way Saturday into Sunday, I think, Kim. So batten down the hatches, as they like to say, and try to stay dry. As long as it's, this weekend and I don't have to drive into it, although Monday might be crazy as well. So thanks for joining us on this Friday. I'm Nikki Medoro along with Kim McAllister.
Hey.
Hey. Happy Groundhog's Day. The next storm could be hazardous, really down in Southern California. I'm going to have to check in with Chip Franklin because he's down in the San Diego area. Some of the stuff down there is just nuts. We have a great show today. John Rothmann will join us in just a minute. We'll talk all things politics. And then, of course, Tim Sika will be joining us toward the end of the show to talk about all things movies and streaming. And I have a nice spicy, did you make it? I sent you the
I didn't make it. I did not.
Okay, so
I do.
It was literally the easiest recipe ever, Kim McAllister. So I have it right here. It's spicy, it's healthy, it's delicious, and this recipe keeps. All right, you can make it. I made it yesterday. I mean, I didn't put too much in my bowl because I don't want it to go bad because it's really that good. I don't want to waste it. But I mean, I made it yesterday right after the show. It looks like I just made it. And that's very important when I tell you what's in it. And I'm just telling you, if you want something that you could snack on all day, guilt-free, that's coming up in our Friday food segment. Okay. But before we get to John Rothmann, let's click the thumbs up button, show your support for the show. Super Chat is also live, and thank you to everybody that always donates to our Super Chat. We really do appreciate it. And, of course, our Patreon. Thank you to those who have been bumping up their monthly donations. It's just one time a month for this 100% crowd-funded show. And so please go to thenikkimedoroshow.com, thenikkimedoroshow.com. Our Patreon link is there. You could sign up. We also have links to our merch shop. If you like PayPal, if you find PayPal easier, unfortunately, PayPal doesn't do the monthly thing. So you'd have to go back every month if that's the way you want to do it. And please do. But just go to paypal.com, hit the send button, and then put in the email, thenikkimedoroshow@gmail.com, thenikkimedoroshow@gmail.com. I'm loving all the guesses of what I'm making. It's not sushi. Phineas, I would not be making, although
spicy tuna roll. Ooh.
A spicy tuna roll is one of my favorite things to get. Even though I've heard, and I try not to think about this, that apparently the tuna that they use for the spicy tuna is kind of like the scraps, which makes sense, right? If you're, you have the nice long piece of sashimi, and then whatever's left over, you just kind of chop up and make spicy tuna. But I like a hand roll, spicy tuna hand roll, and I like to add a tempura shrimp in it. Ugh. My mouth is watering already. It's not even time for Friday food. But what it is time for, my friends, is to talk some politics with the one and only John Rothman. You can find his podcast on all of your podcast apps around the world, around the political world with John Rothman. Hello, my friend.
How are you this morning?
I am very good. I'm staying dry. We, at least in San Jose, we have a lull. Is it crazy where you are in San Francisco?
No, actually, I was just outside, and it's not raining.
Okay, good.
It's wet, but it's not raining.
Good.
We wait for the deluge, which
I
we are
know.
told will come.
It
And you
is
know what
coming.
they say about Groundhog Day? When it rains, it pours.
But I swear I can always count on you, John. I can always count on you to put a smile on my face. Now, let's try to put a smile on our face when we talk about politics, okay?
Good luck.
I know. So, a New York judge, I read this yesterday, is expected to issue a ruling on President Trump on the $370 million civil fraud case by either now or mid-February. So, within the next week or so. What are your thoughts on this case? Because some of the headlines I'm reading have me concerned, to say the least.
Tell me why you're concerned.
I think just the fact that he could just get off. Now, just to bring people up to speed, this is the Letitia James lawsuit filed by New York Attorney General Letitia James, sued Trump in 2020, claiming he falsely altered his net worth. I think, you know what I think? I'm trying to hedge my bets. It's like the Super Bowl, John, right? I'm going for my team to win, but I don't want to think it's going to happen because I might jinx it. I think that's the emotion that I'm feeling.
Well, the other issue is Weisselberg, the accountant, is evidently flipping again. He's saying that he didn't tell the truth on some things. How that will affect what is determined, I cannot tell you. But I can tell you that this is a case which will be decided. The American people will make a judgment. I'm less concerned about his personal net worth than I am about January 6th and the result of Mr. Smith's investigation in Washington. And of course, we are still dealing with the fact that since last you and I spoke, Donald Trump lost the whole battle over the question of whether he sexually assaulted a woman and was fined a phenomenal amount of money, which is stunning to me. So $83.3 million.
You think he's really going to pay a dime of that, though, John?
I don't know. I know he has to appeal, and I want to see how the appeal goes. But the point being that what disturbs me is these things are happening, and the American electorate, at least the electorate supporting Donald Trump, doesn't seem to care.
Yeah.
And I remarked this morning in my podcast, it's Groundhog Day. It's deja vu all over again, if I can cite Yogi Berra. It seems that there is, when you talk about a Teflon political figure, it seems to be Donald Trump, at least with his supporters.
Yeah. I mean, I hope it's Groundhog Day with him losing the next presidential election to President Biden. Apparently, Biden has a slight lead over Donald Trump.
Depends what poll you see. But here we are. It's only February 2nd.
Right.
So we're so far out, we don't know what's going to happen. And I was pointing out to somebody, anything can happen between now and November. International affairs, the whole nine yards. And so I think it's almost futile. But you'll note Nikki Haley is taking the gloves off.
Yes,
she is blasting Donald Trump. Why is South Carolina so critical? For Nikki Haley, if she doesn't win in South Carolina or do very well in South Carolina, she's cooked. But the same thing applies with Joe Biden. He's going to win the South Carolina primary. There's no real opposition. But he has to hold the black vote. And the main thing that I would suggest to you is everybody's going after their own constituency. Donald Trump is going after his base. That's who he needs. He's got to have them hold firm. Joe Biden is going after black voters who put him over the top 4 years ago in South Carolina. And he is in Michigan. Why? Because there's a real division in Michigan. There's a large Arab American community in Michigan, most of whom supported Joe Biden, who are very angry about his stand on Gaza.
Right.
And as a result, he has to beef up his position there. And at the same time, while the United Auto Workers this week endorsed Joe Biden, what's happening now is Donald Trump's going after the Teamsters. Well, the Teamsters did endorse a Republican, Richard Nixon, back in 1972. So it's going to be interesting to see how all these constituencies sort themselves out. Oh, one other quick point. The employment rate in this country was phenomenal today,
Exactly.
adding more than double the number they thought they would have. And the question is, will economic good news have any impact? And I would point out to you, we are not in a recession.
No, we are not.
That the economy is doing very well. The problem is food prices. And food prices, frankly, it has a lot to do with the battle in Ukraine. It has a lot to do with our climate change, all of those issues. I don't know whether any politician can be held accountable, but the Republicans will try to hang that on Joe Biden. As I might add, if the shoe were on the other foot, you'd see the same thing happening. So there are many complex layers here that we will explore because South Carolina primary is just 3 weeks away.
Exactly.
And March 5th, Super Tuesday, is just a month and a few days away. And everything may be decided by then, except for the variable of lawsuits and Donald Trump's own
Exactly.
craziness.
Now, Trump came out, I think it was last night, and he said something to the effect of the economy is doing so well because people think I'm going to win the next presidential election. Now, of course, he's trying to conflate himself. But how, in your opinion, John, is that ever true that the stock market would soar on the hope that somebody would win?
No, I don't think so. And the stock market is so variable. Anything can happen with the market. So I think it's Donald Trump trying to create the illusion that if he is president, things will get better. But people will remember when he was president, things were not going so well.
Yeah.
So you've got, it's always the push and pull of politics.
Nikki Haley said, actually on Wednesday, that Texas and other states have the right to secede from the union if they decide they don't want to be part of America anymore. A presidential candidate saying so much so that she believes in states' rights that she would say something like this. I don't know. It just seems anti-American to me, John. Why do you think she's coming out and saying
in the party
like
of Lincoln?
Thank you.
Who refused to bow to secession. The fact that Nikki Haley would make such a statement is not only ludicrous and absurd, but if she were the Republican nominee, boy, would she have a problem. The whole point is the Republican Party is caught on the horns of a dilemma. They claim that they believe in states' rights. They are using states' rights to go against the Biden administration. But the simple fact is federal law trumps state law. And that's the way it is. And that's the party of Lincoln. So it is a peculiar moment. But I understand Nikki Haley and the Republicans want to hold the South. They want to hold the so-called conservative voters. And they are going to have to wage a campaign of states' rights. That, by the way, goes to the heart of women's right to choose.
Right, exactly.
You cannot separate what the Supreme Court has done and what it may do in the future from this campaign. I believe that no matter what the Supreme Court rules on the Trump cases, that in the end, the Supreme Court will be an issue in the presidential campaign. What kind of justices do we want? Not only on the Supreme Court, but on the lower courts. So that will be another dynamic in this campaign. And although the most recent poll shows, they're so close it doesn't matter, shows a slight advantage for Trump, I just find it inconceivable. There's another variable, and that is what if Trump is convicted on some of these charges? A lot of voters are saying if he's convicted, they won't vote for him. And that would have a huge effect.
And that's why I think Nikki Haley should stay in, John. I mean, you said she's toast if she doesn't at least do really well in South Carolina. But there's always this possibility. And I know we talked last week about, kind of suspending your campaign. You could always jump back in given what happens to Trump. But it seems to me, I just wouldn't even ever suspend my campaign. I would just keep going. I know it costs money, but if you don't want Biden, it blows my mind that there's still so many people that see Donald Trump.
But they're blowing their money. Look at Donald Trump. The results that we've heard is he has spent $50 million of contributions from voters on his legal expenses. And he calls himself a billionaire?
I know.
What in the world is he thinking? Well, I know what he's thinking. He's always been very tight. And who knows how much money he really has in terms of flexibility. But I think Nikki Haley will stay in as long as she can. But if you took a look at the latest poll out of South Carolina, and I don't know if it's true or not, we won't know till Election Day. The simple reality is that she's losing by 30 points in her own home state. You lose by that kind of margin in your own home state, and I don't think you've got a chance of a snowball in hell of being the Republican nominee. But wait, let's assume something happens to Donald Trump.
Okay.
Then all bets are off.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
DeSantis, by the way, who has suspended his campaign, could still jump back in. All of the candidates who've suspended their campaigns could be a factor. And that's one of the things we have to consider.
Has anyone done that before, John? Has anybody suspended a campaign and then restarted it?
No.
No. Okay. So it's actually never happened before.
No, but remember, in the old days, you didn't have to announce until you got to the convention. There were possibility of winning delegates. There were favorite sons. The whole structure of the way in which we proceed today in American politics is different. That's why you couldn't have an Adlai Stevenson be nominated by the Democrats, as he was in 52, or a Wendell Willkie by the Republicans in 1940. There are not those kinds of variables. One of the interesting things about politics is, in terms of nominating conventions, is once those delegates are elected, they're locked in.
Yeah.
And the only example, I think I used it last week, and I don't want to repeat myself, there's so much to say, but if a candidate vanishes from the scene, as happened with Bobby Kennedy in 1968, his pledged delegates, after his assassination, got together as a group and decided to vote for George McGovern. But there were not enough loose delegates to make a difference at the Democratic Convention of 1968, which is why Hubert Humphrey became the Democratic nominee for president.
What issues do you think currently are going to hurt Biden the most? Obviously, the southern border, obviously Gaza. I mean, Mayorkas getting possibly impeached, even though it just came out, I want to say earlier this week, Republican Congressman Ken Buck said he will not vote to impeach Mayorkas. They're going to use the border, John, as this key issue of Biden's ineptitude in running this country, let alone, somebody was asking in the comments earlier, the response to the killing of those soldiers in Jordan.
Yeah, all of that is true, but there's only one issue that really hurts Joe Biden: his age.
But Trump's not that much younger. I mean, come on.
Matter. Please don't confuse people with the facts.
And it's not like Trump speaks so eloquently, John. I mean, it's not like the guy doesn't fumble as well, debanking and all sorts. It's the same. I don't know.
You mean it's Groundhog Day all over again?
Very good. Very good.
But my point to you is, I think the greatest minus to Joe Biden is his age. I don't know if there's really a way to overcome how old you are. And the fact that he does not have the vigor and vim that he had 10 years ago or 20 years ago. But the simple truth is, the American people are going to make a choice about direction. Do they want to go with a Trump who is talking about being a dictator on the first day, or who talks about poisoning the blood of America through immigration? I think Biden's issue is his age. And there was a poll that I saw yesterday taken by CNN, which says that's what concerns people the most. There is another question, which we've touched on, but I think we should, and that is who the vice presidential nominee is. If you take a look at the actuary tables, and you take a look at somebody over the age of 75 or 80, all of a sudden your life expectancy is vastly reduced, which means that who we vote for president and vice president, that person that vice presidential candidate could become president of the United States. And, a lot of people said when Roosevelt replaced Henry Wallace with Harry Truman, that bosses at the Democratic Party, and in those days there were bosses, did not want to see Wallace as president. They wanted to find somebody reliable because they thought the odds were that Roosevelt wouldn't live through his fourth term. So is that a gamble people are willing to take? Is that something that we have to think about? And that does not seem to be on the radar of most people. But I'm going to tell you right now, it may be the most critical decision we make in the campaign of 2024. The vice presidential nominees will be as important as the presidential nominees. So I'm throwing that out to you too. But you're right. I watched this morning. I suffer from low blood pressure. So I watched Fox this morning.
Oh, I don't know.
Which may reveal my political business. But let me give you just one example. I couldn't believe it. On Fox this morning, they were criticizing Joe Biden because he hasn't hit back militarily on the troops killed in Jordan.
Yeah. He says he has a plan, but...
But you understand, the attack wasn't on whether or not there was a plan or not a plan. It was the inaction. And I think that's a losing issue for the Republicans. I think that in the end, it will hurt them. But unfortunately, and I hate to say this, the American people are so locked in their positions between Trump and Biden that I don't know that there's a lot of swing to pick up one way or the other. So one of the things is, and I know we've got the Super Bowl coming up. Who are you rooting for, by the way? No, I know the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl, I watch you on Facebook. The Super Bowl is coming up, and it's the same kind of speculation. You don't know till the game is over who is going to win.
Yeah.
You can speculate about strengths and weaknesses and whether their line will hold or what, all of the things that you would do in a football game. But in the end, what matters is what happens on the field. And I'm going to suggest to you that in this presidential campaign, September, October are going to be critical months. And there are going to be a lot of mistakes made, a lot of issues raised, a lot of things that we can't even factor in at this moment. By the way, if you live in Southern California, have you taken a look at the piers? The piers in Southern California, they're being battered, and we're talking about multi-million-dollar structural damage. And that's because of global warming. That's because of seas rising. That's because of all the stuff that's going on. And that's not even mentioned as an issue in this campaign. So, and I don't know that even if it were raised as an issue, you could solve the problem. But remember, Donald Trump took us out of the Paris Accords, and Joe Biden put us back into the Paris Accords. And maybe the Accords won't make a difference. Maybe it's too late. I don't know. Yeah. But that's another issue which is going to have to be raised. So you're absolutely right. These issues are critical. And if you want to get a real juxtaposition, all you have to do is listen to Fox versus MSNBC and CNN. That's all you have to do.
Yeah.
And that's the reality.
It's interesting that you mentioned what issues voters are going to care about and what may swing. It does seem to be these social issues that just wrap people up in knots. Well, if Joe Biden's president, then we're going to take away, women in sports. Or there was a headline in SF Gate, which I know I understand that people do things for clicks and things like that. But San Francisco Giants owner donates $5,000 to help stop critical race theory in schools. It just seems to me like, well, one, $5,000 is $5,000. We're not talking about billions and millions of dollars, but at the same time, what are we as a voter supposed to do about this? Are we supposed to read headlines like this and just be like, that's why I can't have a Joe Biden presidency or a Donald Trump presidency? How do we get back to just focusing on the things that actually matter? How do we start focusing on things like you just mentioned, the water lapping at our front doors, and nobody seems to be doing anything about it?
But you see, there's nothing to be done about it except talk about it. There's no real answer, but you talk about money. Michael Bloomberg, the former mayor of New York, has just contributed $200,000 to Mayor Breed's reelection campaign. Daniel Lurie's mother, Mimi Haas, is contributing $1 million to her son's campaign. Daniel Lurie's brother, Ari, just gave $250,000. All of a sudden, all this money is flowing in. And you wonder, why aren't there campaign caps? Why aren't there limits? Can you buy an election?
Right. And what do you think about that between Lurie and Breed?
What do I think about it?
Yeah.
I think right now Breed is by far the favorite.
Really?
But,
okay.
Yes. But there is not. Well, why? She has the Democratic Party establishment behind her. She has Willie Brown behind her.
But she has a lot of criticism.
Yeah, there is. But you've got to have an alternative. And it has to be an alternative that can do something. So all I'm saying is it's, again, too early. This isn't until November.
Right.
But I raised it because of your question of money and how money is being spent. Look, the accusation is being made that the reason Donald Trump is slowing down on his rallies is because he spent so much money on legal fees, he doesn't have the money to continue doing what he's doing. And Joe Biden, by the way, is raising money prodigiously. And he has not had to expend vast amounts of money as Donald Trump has. So all of these issues play in. And when you think about the importance of money, and this is my opportunity to put in a plug for supporting the Nikki Medoro show and the Mark Thompson show and Kit McAllister, that the world does run. Jess Unruh, the former Speaker of the California State Assembly, said the mother's milk of politics, money. And it's the same thing in media. One of the things that really intrigues me is the impact of media and the fact that we have such a partisan media now. So all of these things factor in. And let me again emphasize, if you want to get both sides of the picture, even if you tell me you never watch CNN or MSNBC or Fox, you have to listen to all of them in order to understand where the priorities are. One of the things that concerns me is that about half of American voters get their news from Fox.
Yeah.
And
Crazy.
Fox is a biased source. But then again, so are CNN and MSNBC. You know where I get my news? I listen to the hourly news. It's 5 minutes on CBS every hour on the hour. And in the old days when we were on KGO, I listened to ABC News the same way because I want an objective, clear definition of what the big news stories are. But we are going to see the most partisan situation. One last point, I know we're running low on time, and that has to do with debates. You will note we don't really have debates. We have joint appearances. But Donald Trump has so far declined to have any joint appearance. In the presidential campaign of 2024, will Joe Biden and Donald Trump stand on the same stage?
No.
Will there ever be that kind of debate? And I would remind people, since 1976, when Ford and Carter ran against each other, we have had these joint appearances in every presidential campaign. We did not have them in 64, 68, or 72. And the first time we really had them was in 1960 in the Nixon-Kennedy debates. But they're not debates, they're joint appearances. But I'm waiting to see whether or not Donald Trump will agree to those joint appearances. And let me ask you the question. Staging, lighting makes all the difference in the world. And we'll talk about this, of course, as time goes on. Richard Nixon won the first debate against Kennedy on the radio, but he lost on television because of his appearance. What will the appearance of Joe Biden be like as we get closer to those joint appearances? And how will Donald Trump stand up under the Klieg lights? These are all issues that we can't predict. All we can do is to say they will all be factors, and I'm looking forward to that campaign, believe me.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they do debate. I'm not putting my money on that there will be a debate between Biden and Trump. I just don't think that there will be. I don't think either man.
Why?
I don't think either man actually wants to. I don't think so. I think that Biden, I don't see the benefit for either of them. I really, really don't. If I was their political, advisor, I would say you'll either stumble. Trump will say something wrong. He'll be blasted about all of his legal problems. And Biden can't stutter. He can't stumble, and he will.
Do you think the American people will accept the fact that there is not a joint appearance?
I think that Trump will. I think if Trump offers to, Biden will step up, but I don't think that Trump wants to, and so I don't think that there will be one. And if Trump's not going to show up, then Biden's not going to debate himself. So no, I don't think so. Then
it will make what the media does even more important.
Yeah, exactly.
And the emphasis on issues will be critical. Although, and I say this very respectfully, most people are really locked in terms of what they believe and who they're going to vote for. The fascinating thing, if you've taken a look at the polls over the last several months, there's hardly a bleep in terms of the percentages. Everything remains very steady, pretty much a deadlock. So let me remind everybody, there's the other thing we have to look at, and that is that it's not a national vote that matters, it's a state-by-state vote.
Exactly.
And we made a mistake, and I say this regrettably, in 2016 because I trusted that states that had traditionally gone for the Democrats would do so again.
Yep.
They didn't by narrow margins. So one of the things you and I will be focusing on will be the state polls approaching the election in the swing states. Because remember, California and New York don't matter. People aren't going to spend money on California and New York. They're going to spend money on Pennsylvania, on Michigan, on Ohio, on Wisconsin, on the states which are viewed as a toss-up. And in the end, we elect our president through the Electoral College and not the popular vote.
And it sucks. It really, and I understand if you live in some of these, less populated states, you like it, but it's a really hard pill to continue to swallow, John, when we end up with somebody in the White House that did not win the popular vote.
Let me remind you, Donald Trump has never won the popular vote, and the Republicans have not won a popular vote election in years. So these are all the questions that we are going to have to deal with as an electorate. And that's what makes going around the political world with me every day, or being with you as I am on Friday, or with Mark Thompson on Wednesday, or on Facepalm America with Bail Rothmann on Monday. That's what makes this such a dynamic. Every morning I wake up, I get up about 5:30, and I flip on the news, and I listen to the latest news broadcast to see what is going to happen. What movement is there? What is something that we need to emphasize? And let me assure you, as we get closer to the election, there will be more and more of this. And as you rightly pointed out a few minutes ago, what these courts do on the Donald Trump legal cases will be absolutely critical in defining him. One other quick point, and that is the polls now indicate that many people who say they would vote for Trump, that at least 15% of those Trump voters, if he is convicted of any of these issues, will not vote for him. And that would give Joe Biden a real victory.
Absolutely. So from your lips to God's ears, John. John Rothman, Around the Political World with John Rothman. You could find that wherever you get your podcast, and you could find him right here on the Nikki Medoro Show every Friday morning. John, have a fabulous weekend. Stay dry, and we'll talk to you next week.
I can't wait, and I know your recipe is going to be magnificent.
It is going to be indeed. Thank you,
But you know what?
friend.
Do me a favor. Just remember, my emphasis is always on desserts, and so I want you to
Try
bear
to eat
that
a
in
little
mind.
healthier in the new year, John. Try and eat a little healthier, but I'll keep
She's
that
such
in
a
mind.
killjoy. All right. Support the Nikki Medoro program. All right.
Thank you so much,
See
John.
you.
Talk to you next
Bye.
time. Bye-bye. Yeah, that's John Rothman. Welcoming back Kim McAllister. Yeah, so
He's so funny.
I love him to death. Yeah, so we're going to keep an eye on it. It's never fun to wonder if we're really going to have another Donald Trump presidency, but we're just going to try to move on and stay as positive as possible. Okay, so I have my food here. It's marinating. It's a marinating. You can hear it. It's right here. Let's do some headlines first. Then we'll do some Friday food. I have a funny story to tell about my whole deep cleaning yesterday, because there's also some dental news. You might have it in your news. There's some dental news. Also, don't forget, towards the end of the show, Tim Sika will be joining us to talk all things movies and streaming, including this one movie that's I've constantly seen ads for that looks pretty freaking good. So I'm really interested to see whether Tim liked it or not.
No, the more they have to add, this is the saying in my house. The more they have to advertise for a movie, the worse the movie is.
I think the opposite. If I see a
Really?
movie preview, if I have not seen a preview for a movie and it's being released next week, they're not hyping it up. They're not spending the money on advertising because it ain't that good. That's really funny that you guys have the complete opposite viewpoint. All right, let's do some headlines, and then I'll show you my healthy and spicy recipe next.
Now, from around the world to up your street, the Nikki Medoro Show presents News Czar Kim McAllister.
We will begin with the remains of 3 Army Reserve soldiers who were killed in Jordan last week, expected to arrive today at Dover Air Force Base in Delaware. President Biden, along with First Lady Jill Biden and Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin, will join the soldiers' families in witnessing their return. All 3 soldiers were from Georgia: Sergeant William Rivers of Carrollton, Specialist Kennedy Sanders of Waycross, and Specialist Brianna Moffett of Savannah. House Republicans are investigating claims that the Georgia prosecutor behind former President Trump's election interference case misused federal funds. This is another thing that seems to be the throwing at her. Republican-led House Judiciary Committee subpoenaed Fulton County District Attorney Fonnie Willis for documents related to the funds. That's what they're looking for. Willis and her office are facing allegations of retaliation against an employee who reportedly tried to stop what she claimed was a misuse of Justice Department grant funding. So now you have this with the funding issue. Then you have the issue of whether or not there was inappropriate relationship between her and another prosecutor. And is it all an effort to get her out so that the case falls apart?
Yes, of course it is. I mean, it has all of the markings of it, right? A sex scandal. She's allegedly having this affair with that gentleman, Nathan Wade, one of the lawyers she appointed. Was any of the money spent on vacations and things? It's a bit rich for Donald Trump's lawyers or those supporting him to talk about misusing of funds. But they're going to do everything. They're going to throw everything in the kitchen sink at her. Of course they are.
Well, they're working it. They're trying it.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I don't know if you've been following this case. I've mentioned it a couple times here on the show. The mother of this high school student who killed 4 other Michigan high school students says she wishes that she and her husband had been killed instead. It was part of yesterday's testimony by Jennifer Crumbley, who's being tried for manslaughter for her son's actions. The prosecution rested its case today after cross-examining Crumbley. She also, by the way, blamed her husband and said he was the one that was supposed to lock up the gun. Oh.
I mean, she was also, though, Kim, and I didn't know this, she was having an affair at the time of the shooting. And the guy that she was having an affair with is Brian Malochi. I don't know if I'm saying his last name properly. Apparently testified. He's in text sent after the shooting. Jennifer Crumbley told Malochi that the shooting, quote, could have been prevented. In other text, she told him the school was nonchalant about concerns surrounding Ethan Crumbley and said the school should have taken the concerns seriously and the school should not have allowed him to return to class. And as we know, the school brought them in and said, these drawings are concerning to us, and they let the kid go back to school. So it seems to me, I throw the book at this bitch. Like, honestly, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You are trying to abdicate your responsibility as a mother. You went to the shooting range with a kid that you know had mental health issues.
Yeah, she said she was worried about that he would do something stupid.
I mean, you failed. You failed. And so don't start pointing your finger at anybody else. Start pointing it at yourself. Sorry. It's very upsetting.
No, hey. It's frustrating, especially when you and I are sending our kids to school, high school, every day. And you have to expect that, this is a time when parents, all of us, have to be aware and alert and, have a real reading of what's going on with our kids. Because
and the fact that the drawing said, the voices won't stop, help me. Like he literally wrote it on the paper that got him to the office. And it, I will say the school shouldn't have let him go back. Like so many, but the fact that the parents were like, yeah, well, and then let him go back, and people lost their lives, and that's horrific.
Speaking of lost lives, that happened this morning in Florida, where a pilot is among 3 people who were killed when the small plane crashed into a Florida Gulf Coast mobile home park last night. 2 people on the ground at the Bayside Waters mobile home park in Clearwater were killed. According to the Flight Aware records, the single-engine Beechcraft Bonanza left Vero Beach on the Atlantic coast and was headed to Albert Whitehead Airport in St. Petersburg. Didn't make it, crashed into this mobile home park instead. Horrible. In Oregon, a decision from a judge, very interesting. He's telling state senators not to mess with ballot measure 113. The court sided with the Oregon Secretary of State, who ruled that 9 state Senate Republicans in Oregon who staged a 42-day walkout to protest an abortion rights and gender-affirming health care law may not run for re-election. Can't walk out, abdicate your duties, and then run for re-election. Ballot measure 113 states that any senator with 10 or more unexcused absences from legislative sessions is not eligible for re-election.
Interesting.
So whether it was a protest or not, they can't run again. That's it for them.
Doesn't it kind of get you upset that it's easy to do it at the state level, but not for somebody that's president of the United States? It's like, come on now.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. Well, and even for our senators in, at the federal level, is there such a rule? I
agree that like if you're gonna not do your job, then you don't need to have the job anymore.
No, absolutely not. No. This is out of the South Bay. Yeah. A former college criminology professor pleading guilty to setting 4 wildfires. Ugh. Gary Maynard of San Jose facing a prison sentence of up to 20 years for setting the Cascade, the Everett, the Ranch, and the Conard fires in Shasta Trinity National Forest in 2021. Now, he could also be fined up to $1 million. The former Santa Clara University professor sparked those fires while crews were stretched thin battling the massive Dixie Fire.
Jesus.
As talk about throw the book at someone.
Firebugs. They're so dangerous. So dangerous.
Big earthquake off the coast of California today.
Oh, I didn't hear about that.
Yeah, the USGS reporting a 4.9 magnitude earthquake centered in the Pacific. It was about 70 miles off the coast of Eureka, just a little after 7 a.m. this morning. Of course, no injuries or damage reported. Pretty far offshore, but big enough, almost a 5, to feel it, right?
Wow. Yeah, heck yeah.
Yeah. I have a picture here. I don't know if you've seen this. This kind of waterfall phenomenon. It's like a waterfall of fire
Oh
in
yeah.
Yosemite. It is
Isn't it like called the
almost.
horsetail something or something like that?
I have a picture of it. I don't. Hold on. Here it is. Nope. Here it is. It's a phenomenon that happens once a year. Has to be the conditions just right. There it is.
Ooh,
Um,
pretty.
yeah, it's they call it the world famous waterfall. Those who've seen it for themselves at Yosemite know what all the hype is about. Hundreds of people pack the national park every year trying to catch a glimpse of this. It's Firefall. Yeah, is that what you said? Firefall.
Well, it's the horsetail waterfall, but I think they call it Yosemite
Firefall.
Yeah, Firefall. Yeah, that's when it does that.
Yeah, it's on the eastern side of El Capitan. This is where the giant waterfall gets a fiery glow as the sun
Yeah.
sets, looking like a river of lava flowing off the mountain. Tourism officials say the best time to go is from the middle to the end of this month. They advise those arriving hours get there early to get the perfect spot, but a lot of photographers get out there and try to
Yeah.
get the firefall.
It's really crowded. The last time I think I heard about people doing that, I mean, the line to kind of see it can be a bit insane. So just look at the picture. Unless you're like Jefferson Graham, you know what I mean? Like he can get the best picture of it. I don't know. It's one of those things where, oh my God, that's so beautiful. I want to see it. And then you realize that thousands of other people are trying to go at the exact same time as you do. So yeah. It's pretty though.
And as you mentioned earlier, in at Punxsutawney, you know, where it looks like we're gonna get more spring.
Yeah. So he did not see his shadow. Punxsutawney Phil did not see his shadow. And if he doesn't see his shadow, that means we have an early spring. But if you believe in that BS, I guess. That's why I played that video. I didn't realize there were so many different animals trying to predict when the hell the winter would end. But,
Either.
okay.
Well, yeah, as you say, Phil did not see his shadow, which means we will not see 6 more weeks of winter.
No.
The traditional traditional forecast went on as scheduled despite calls from PETA, the People for Ethical Treatment of Animals, to replace the groundhog display with a coin flip because that's about as accurate. They don't like the way that Phil is treated.
He's treated like a friggin' celebrity. He's in a friggin' box. They pick him up, they show him around, they put him back in the box. I don't know. They put him back in the ground. I don't know. I mean, PETA, I agree with a lot of the things that you do. I'm pretty sure Punxsutawney Phil is a celebrity in Pennsylvania.
Maybe I think there's more than one. I guess they're animals that don't like to be,
I can
plucked out of
imagine.
their hole.
And like shoved up into the air. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Although Dylan does want to watch Groundhog's Day, which is so funny that
Such a good
movie
movie.
has changed the whole meaning of Groundhog's Day. Like it's a repeat. Like we use it. Oh my God, it's like Groundhog's Day. It's like the same day over and over again. That was a total made up thing from a Bill Murray movie, which I just find to be hilarious. Absolutely.
That movie
hilarious.
is so great, though.
We're going to watch it today. We have to watch it today.
Oh, yeah, we have to watch it today. And it's a perfect excuse to do that.
Exactly.
This report is sponsored by
you.
Not Punxsutawney Phil. You.
That
It means we count on you to help us fund the Nikki Medoro Show. The NikkiMedoroShow.com. The NikkiMedoroShow.com. That's the website. Please check it out. There's a lot going on that website, including the Patreon and the PayPal links, but other things as well. So please
I have my
take a look at
OnlyFans
it.
up there with my feet. So
You don't not have that. There are no feet. Keep your feet in your shoes.
Inputting. My feet inputting are on, you have to sign up for our Patreon and then you'll see it. No, I'm just kidding. Kim's like, now you've just sullied the whole thing.
Now
You
the
just
people are
sullied
going to
it.
go trying to find the feet. There's no feet. False advertising.
There's no feet. I'm just kidding.
We're not doing
I'm just
feet.
kidding.
I'm Kim McAllister. This is the Nikki Medoro show. Or is
No
it?
feet. It is.
What's
There's
going
no
on this
feet.
show?
There's no feet. Okay.
Yeah.
But what there is food. It is Friday.
Oh,
and that means
we
there's
have-
Friday food. Okay. Now, I sent this very simple recipe to Kim McAllister, who's too busy apparently to make it. But I will show you the video of me making it. And then she'll be like, oh, I could have totally made that. Okay. So I'm on TikTok and Instagram. I always say TikTok made me try it. I don't know if TikTok showed it to me. I think Instagram showed it to me, but I always start my videos like that. Okay, so here's the video. This is, I'm telling you, I'm not gonna show it to you yet, but I'm gonna show. I made this yesterday, probably around 11:30. Okay, so just keep that in mind of how fresh this delicious salad, and you can chomp on the whole darn thing. and you won't feel guilty at all. Okay, hold on. I want to bring up my video because I want us to be able to talk during it. Okay, here we go. So this is a very simple 1, 2, 3, 4 ingredients, healthy, spicy recipe.
Another TikTok made me try it, and this time, spicy apple salad, deemed the best midnight snack. You need 2 Honeycrisp apples, 1 cucumber, 1 jalapeno, and 2 limes.
That's it.
This little gadget is a game changer when you want to dice things very quickly. I will put this in my link of favorite things.
And it's in the show notes. If you want
Cut
to see it.
things so they fit easier into that thing.
This is my favorite part. You can work out all your aggression doing this, by the way.
Apples are done. Now the cucumber.
Did you core those apples?
And this is what
I just
those
cut
2
around
things
it. I
look
just
like.
cut, cut
You
around
can
it.
dice it up smaller, but I'm just going to keep it easy.
No,
This
it
is
does
the
not
jalapeno.
ruin the Honeycrisp
You can kind of
apple.
cut it up a little smaller if you want to. So add your jalapeno to the bowl and then squeeze the juice of the 2 limes.
Yeah, and honestly, like that's the trick. If you don't have lime, then don't make the salad. Just don't. It's not worth
Combine the salad. Okay, moment of truth. That has a nice kick to it. Definitely satisfying.
it. Yeah,
You
it's
have
really
to
good.
try it. It's so good.
Okay, so
Wow.
this is the salad. I'm just telling you. I made this yesterday, and still look. I hope I don't spill it. Look how fresh it still looks.
Yeah, it really does.
No browning of the
'Cause-
apple.
Yeah, I was gonna say usually apples kind of get a little yucko.
It's the lime. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
it's really, really good. And I guess if you don't like jalapenos, you could use less of it. It's pretty vital to the whole thing. I don't want to take too big of a bite.
So it's apples, jalapenos,
Cucumber and lime.
cucumber, and lime,
Mhm.
and it's
It is
good.
so good. Mm.
Wow. Okay.
I mean, the tartness from the lime and the apples,
Yeah.
the cucumber has that crunch, and then just that little bit of spice from the. I put the whole jalapeno in it. The guy that did the video that I followed, he put like half of it, and I was like, "You're a wuss!" In that whole gigantic salad, and you don't even think that one jalapeno is going to do much.
I'd be like, I'm gonna make that salad with no jalapeno over
I
here.
know, no, it's real, but you need it because it kind of gives it. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not spicy,
Yeah.
but it is so good. But I'm telling you, that gadget is my favorite thing. I just try to find reasons to use that freaking thing. It's dangerous though. I can't tell you. My thumb is healing again. How many times I've sliced my thumb? It's sharp, so you cannot touch the top of it. Do not, and they even have a sticker on it. Don't touch this. It's sharp, and it's sharp right on top. Like you cannot touch it, or it will cut you. So
Yeah.
it's not kid friendly. Although my kids will use it. I say don't touch it. They're smarter than me. Like I'll see something like a little piece of apple if I'm cleaning it, and I'll grab it, and there you go. I cut my thumb.
Oh. Are you okay? Oh, look, now you got a little spice. The spice is backing up in there. That's
Piece
funny.
of apple actually hit me, got loose from my tooth.
Did you feed it to your family, and what did they think?
I fed it to James. I did not feed it to my children. I should. They probably wouldn't like the jalapenos. You guys are wusses. I didn't know I had so many wusses on my show. I'm not gonna eat it if it has
Yeah.
jalapenos in it.
That's right, Vilma.
I mean, I guess you could use a milder pepper. I think it needs something else. Yeah, and that's another good point, John. If the seeds are left in, that's what makes it hot. So I guess you could de-seed your jalapeno and just get a little bit of the flavor, but not the heat. I put all those seeds in. I scrape the
No.
seeds in. I mean, it's a gigantic salad, people. But anyways, it's really good. It stays really well. There was a whole article about this salad because they called it, like I mentioned in the video, like the best midnight snack because it keeps so well. You could just, in the middle of the night, I want something crunchy and sweet and whatever, and it's perfect.
Jess says no jalapenos. Fire going in and fire going out.
You know what I
Ouch.
call that? I call that a cleanse, Jess. I call that a cleanse. And you know what? Go to my favorite things. You can buy them in bidet and you'll totally be fine. It'll cool you off.
Oh,
Thank you,
God.
Spencer, for the $5 donations. I don't think jarred jalapenos, like the pickled jalapenos, that would be a weird flavor with the pickled. I think, yeah, I don't want to It's not that, you guys, come on. It's not that spicy. It's one jalapeno with one whole cucumber and one whole apple. Try it. Try it. And yeah, the lime is what prevents the apple from oxidizing and turning brown, which is perfect. So anyways, it's really, really good. Serrano peppers are also being mentioned in the comments. Those are good. Chris is on Team Bidet. Kim is not Team Bidet, by the way. She's a wuss.
But my family agrees with you. The boys in my family are like, this is the best thing ever.
It is. But anyway, so if you like spicy food, I love, you know me. I think
it's too cold. A cold shot of water to the rear end is not
so good. It's so honestly, you'll never be as clean. Go ahead, be with your dirty butt. I don't care. I'll love you anyway. But I'm telling you, I'm cleaner than you are. I'm just letting you know.
So what is the salad called?
A spicy apple salad.
Oh, spicy apple salad. Okay.
Yes, I don't know if there's another name for it. That's what.
Okay.
Somebody in the comments called it pico de apple. Because it kind of like seems like a pico de gallo, but pico de apple. And apparently other people have made it a version of it with different stuff. But that's really easy. And honestly, besides the jalapeno, I always have apples and cucumbers and lime in my house. Yeah. So, and if you want to add a little bit like of the squeeze and not fresh lime, if you want to be extremely lazy about it, you could do that. But I made it also early yesterday, Kim, because, you know, I had the second half of my deep cleaning. I'm just going to tell you, the first half was way easier than the second half. So the first half, they had the dentist and one of the hygienists doing it. Yeah. Yesterday, I only had one. It was one chick doing it. And she put not that you don't want a lot of the numbing, but she used so much. It was awful. Like I wasn't in pain. I was just so numb. And so then I was starving. I was still numb. I had it done at 4.
And then you can't eat.
And you can't like swallow. And then you look kind of like, you know, there's something like you've had a stroke, right? Because your lips aren't moving. So my lips are going opposite ways, just trying to smile. The kids, I've raised real snarky ass kids. So, you know, they're just laughing at me. So I'm trying not to talk because every time I talk, I look like a weirdo. And so finally, I can eat. I'm numb. I'm not as numb that I can try the salad. And it was the weirdest thing because the salad's really cold, but when you're numb, you can't feel the cold. So it was like half warm feeling and half cold in my mouth.
Oh.
Yeah, it was really weird. I was nervous. I was like, you kind of go through this thing. Am I ever going to have feeling back in my face? Yes, I know. I'm the worst flosser. I just am. I have really, and I'm not using this as an excuse. I have very tight teeth. Even my dentist tells me, like when they're flossing your teeth after cleaning, they're like, ugh, like, so I have really tight teeth.
They're all packed in there.
Yeah. And so, that's why they get crooked. They're all crooked and everything like that. So, yeah, anyways, it was kind of hard. The dentist, it wasn't that bad. It wasn't that long. Sometimes I feel like these deep cleanings are a scam. I'm like, do I really need this or do you just want my money? But yeah, they got me. They got me good. But there was this dental story that came out. Did you see this? You know those heavy ass aprons that they put on you when they take your x-ray?
Yeah, the lead apron thing.
They're saying the new recommendation is you don't need it.
What?
I want it still. I don't know about you, but I still want it. So apparently they're saying the American Dental Association says it's no longer recommending the lead aprons and thyroid collars because the x-ray beams are more focused. So there's less concern about radiation hitting other parts of the body. No. Also, the aprons and the collars can sometimes block dentists from getting the images they need. I don't give a crap. I want the apron. Like, no. There are things that have gotten better with dentistry. I want to keep the old school lead. You remember when they used to have to do the fluoride treatment and they had those teeth things and they'd put that disgusting gel and you'd have to sit there for like 10 minutes with this grossness in your mouth. Now it's like foam. They just wipe it on your teeth and they're like, bye. And I'm like,
bye. Don't need anything for a half hour. See you later.
Yeah. And I look at the kids. I'm like, you don't know how, if there was ever a moment where I tell my kids, you don't know how lucky you have it, that you don't have to sit with those tooth trays with and they'd ask you, what flavor do you want? It all tastes like crap. It's so gross. I don't care if it's bubble gum flavored crap. It's disgusting. It was the worst part of going to the dentist was those fluoride treatments. Oh my God. I'm so happy they moved away from that. But yeah, apparently they don't They don't have to do the lead aprons anymore.
John has your problem. He says he found some cool new floss that's springy and gets in there really easy.
Oh, put the name of it in there. Maybe I'll try it out.
Yeah.
Is it like a new type? Like it's still like the string floss? I actually like the, the ones that are like the flosser with the stick, the stick flossers.
You know what? I have such a problem with the plastic waste on those. I'm like, I mean, they tell you they advocate you to get those for kids.
Right.
And I buy these like package of 100 flossers with these plastic things.
And they're everywhere, yeah.
And they're all over the place and they spill and it's like so wasteful. But I agree that kids like them too.
Well, I like it because it lets me push down easier because sometimes my fingers will hurt, I'm such a wuss, you know what I mean? And then like doing it around my finger and it's just easier. And then I can have them in my car and I'm not like with this string, which I find to be grosser for some reason. But yeah, Murphy likes the fluffy floss, not the skinny, stretchy floss. Yeah, I'm just a terrible flosser. I'm a great brusher. I'm a terrible flosser because it's so difficult to get in my teeth that I know I'm not getting it right. Okay, so I'm still getting the lead thing. What else did I want to mention? Oh, because of the game that's coming up. The Super Bowl game. I want to tease something.
Not this weekend, but next weekend.
It's
right?
next weekend. Yes, of course. Yeah. There's always the Pro Bowl is this weekend. So our friend Kay, and you'll see Kay in the comments, emailed me last night.
Okay.
And she has, and I freaking forgot to say the photo. She's going to send me more photos. Oh, hold on. I think I do have it.
You forwarded me the email and you didn't come with a picture.
It should have. So, maybe if you, I'll show you the picture right now. I have it in my email. Here we go. So Kay is offering up this, and we're going to do a raffle next week. Okay. I don't have it set up yet, so I don't want to start taking. We'll start it on Monday, and she's going to send me some more photos. But she should show me. This is a screenshot. This is the actual one, but not hers. But she's going to take it out of the box and take pictures of it. So this is what she is going to. She's donating this to the show so that we can raffle it off ahead of the Super Bowl. So if any of you are big Niner fans like I am, I'm going to put in for the raffle. No, I'm just kidding. It's on wheels. It looks like it's on wheels. I would imagine the back has the wheels. Big cooler, perfect for either going to sports games or whatever. So thank you, Kay, for doing that. We'll do a raffle next week. And yeah, it'll be a nice little fundraiser heading into the Super Bowl next weekend. So yeah, it is.
Let you bring a cooler like that into the Super Bowl, but that'd be perfect for tailgating.
Exactly,
right?
Tailgating, or also just if your kid's in soccer and you want to bring oranges and
sure.
It's a great cooler. It's very, very cute. It's perfect for this time of year. Did you hear about this one place in San Francisco though? It's called Buzzworks. So Buzzworks is a craft beer and sports bar. It's on 11th Street in San Francisco, and apparently it's the only bar. Yeah, no, I'm not allowed there. No. 0 Niner fans are going to be allowed in to the game on Super Bowl Sunday, which is not this Sunday, but next Sunday. They are solely a Kansas City Chiefs bar. How do you feel about that? I'm kind of like, screw you. I'm going to I feel like I'm going to go in, I'm going to order a drink, and then I'm going to take my jacket off, and there's going to be a gigantic 49ers thing on there, and I'm going to flip the bird to everybody and be like, screw you. You're in San Francisco.
As I drive around, I increasingly see a lot of Chiefs flags popping up on lawns.
I know a lot of Chiefs fans.
There are a lot of Chiefs fans around here, and maybe they want a chance to root for their team here in the Bay Area.
Go to Kansas City, mofos.
Unencumbered by all the 49ers yahoos. Maybe that's what they're looking for.
You know what? Nobody asked you to come live in the Bay. This is Bay. I mean, come on. It's our team. So, I mean, I guess it's a good look. I'm talking about it, so it's obviously good average. Exactly. They said in their news release, Buzzworks is going to be open exclusively for the Brave Kingdom fans of the KC Chiefs only, and there is absolutely no other bar in the Bay Area that will do such a thing, making Buzzworks the one and only place for true KC fans to enjoy the game. I wouldn't drive all the way to San Francisco to go to Buzzworks just to go to a bar with a bunch of other Kansas City fans. You can go to any bar and you'll probably see Kansas City fans. There are a lot of them. I know off the top of my head, 1, 2, 3. I know about 6. Diehard.
You're going to be outnumbered, though. Anywhere in the Bay Area, you're going to be outnumbered by 49ers fans, unless you go to that specific bar.
I mean, I would just, in all honesty, it's like I'm boycotting that bar for the rest of my life now. I'm not a craft beer drinker anyway, so I probably wouldn't go there. No, I think it's a good marketing. I wish Buzzworks all the best of luck and all that kind of stuff, but your team's gonna lose. So if you want to be in a bar with a bunch of losers, knock on wood, go to Buzzworks in San Francisco. I know I shouldn't be so like that, but I am. Sorry.
Speaking of the Chiefs, I was reading last night because, my football reading really kind of centers around Taylor Swift.
Of course.
That
Go sports ball.
Go sports ball. That Taylor Swift is not going to have a date for the Grammys because Travis Kelce can't go. That's a travel day or a hotel day or something for
Sunday.
him.
The Grammys are on Sunday, right? This Sunday. Yeah. So I'm sure that's fine, though. And that's their life, and I think that he's at the top of his game.
Yeah.
She's at the top of her game.
Yeah.
It's not always going to. And I think that that's actually probably a good thing because it's just so much pressure. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
She was at the last, the AFC championship game.
Right.
And there was so many cameras just on her. What is she doing? Who is she hugging? What did Travis say? It has to be so much pressure on a very new relationship. I'd be surprised if they last, It
has to be pressure on her no matter what, though. And there's now these little surveys. Who do you think Taylor Swift should take to the Grammys?
She's not going to take anybody.
Care.
She doesn't take anybody anyway. She's never taken it. She might take her friend, Selena Gomez. You know what I mean?
People think that she should take Travis's brother, Jason.
Oh, that's funny. Or take Brittany Mahomes, Patrick Mahomes' wife.
Right.
You could do that. They're all besties now.
Right.
She shouldn't take anybody. Why? You don't need anybody holding your freaking Grammys. She's going to win, I'm sure. At least one, I would think. I just leave them alone, in my opinion.
Maybe the world is so freaked out over politics and what's happening.
They need something like this.
They need some kind of bubblegummy thing to throw their attention to, something that doesn't really matter that they can, focus on so that they're not focusing on the fact that we're about to lose democracy, these things.
It's that meme of the dog just standing in the room on fire. Exactly. Yeah. And then there's Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce to distract us from all of that. Switching gears just a bit, my friend sent me this video. It was actually a news report. Apparently she knows the dad in this video. And it's kind of in the sports realm and how now the story behind this is it's a parent that gets a little too involved in their child's sport. So much so that now this is also a parent who's a coach. And if there's any parent coaches out there, it has to be difficult. It has to be difficult to coach a team that your kid is on, if they're not doing well or they are doing well or, they get hurt or something like that, right? I mean, it has to be difficult.
You put them in and other parents accuse you of putting your kid in more than their kid in. I mean, all kinds of trouble.
Exactly. So, but this is a little bit different. So I'm going to show you the news report. And again, my best friend in Idaho, she was on the show, Jen, apparently knows the dad who got in a bit of trouble. So here we go. Let me play this for you. Oh, if my computer would work. Oh, well, it's not working right now. Hold on. Let me refresh it really quickly and I'll bring it to you.
While you do that, let me ask you how Jen's daughters are doing.
They're doing well.
Okay, good.
They actually, they really are. I think, and what's funny is they are doing well. The daughter that she had been, kind of bitching and moaning about as high schoolers that aren't listening to their parents and all those sorts of things. She's also a new aunt. So it's so funny how, you reflect on your parenting when you see another life just kind of starting off again. You know what I mean? Like all of a sudden, there's this new baby who's adorable. I'm sorry. This baby is so freaking cute. But no, her daughter's doing well, graduating very, very soon. And I think that our daughters are, freshmen in high school. And it's tough. It's tough being a parent and making sure that they're listening to you and heeding your guidance and all sorts of things. So it's a bit difficult.
Speaking of new babies, my cousin and his wife are having a baby.
Aww.
This is really exciting. So the last baby in our family was Jacob. That was
wow. Okay, that's a while
almost
ago.
Nearly
Yeah.
10 years ago. So 10 years is about the last time that I had that
babies,
Tdap
I
vaccine.
know.
So now
Oh,
they said
yes.
everybody in the family has to get vaccinated for the whooping cough,
And tuberculosis,
all that.
diphtheria. Yeah.
So we have to. Today's mine. I
Oh,
have to
wow.
go and get
Good
my
for
shot
you.
today. Yeah. Yeah.
Got to start all that up again. I mean, again, I swear to God, it's like you get your kids off to school and then you have like this sweet spot where they're in college and they're becoming adults. And then all of a sudden the babies start coming back
Yeah.
all around. All right. Here's the video. Now, again, I want you to pay attention here. I'll share this screen. The dad, this is a wrestling match. This is in Idaho. I think it's in Idaho. Yeah, it's in Boise. Now, again, what would you do if this was I'm going to show you the video first. So here we go. On your bottom left,
Saturday's wrestling
in black.
match between Rocky Mountain High School and Nissa High School.
It went from really a 0 to 100 pretty quick.
This is what it looked like as wrestlers from both
That
schools
guy right
were on
there.
the mat. The one video shows volunteer coach and parent of the Rocky Mountain wrestler Russell Brunson runs onto the mat. In the video, you can see Brunson put his hands on the Nissa student wrestler.
I just never seen anybody actually make it to the wrestling mat and physically put hands on a wrestler.
Bobby DeLeon is the head wrestling coach for Nissa.
There's really no excuse for that, regardless of whatever the situation was.
KTVB spoke with Brunson via text message. He sent us a statement saying, "There is no excuse for my actions on January 20th. I should not have stepped onto the mat and tried to break up the wrestling match. I saw my child in a potentially dangerous position and reacted rashly. I've reached out to the family directly and sincerely apologize for my inappropriate reaction."
I was extremely disappointed when I heard what had happened.
Ty Jones is the executive director of the Idaho High School Activities Association. He says in his 10 years with the association, he has never seen something like this happen in Idaho.
Unfortunately, I've seen it in other states, but I can't recall something since I've been the executive director where we've had a parent or a coach put their hands on a kid.
Now the parent, of course, has been banned. He can't coach anymore because of what he did.
Did he think the other kid was choking his
Yes.
child?
So basically what the story was is he was trying to point out, and there wasn't really much of a time for the ref to kind of step in before he did. But yeah, it was doing some sort of chokehold on his kid. Now, again, if that was my kid, I'd be really, really upset.
Yeah.
And he did.
I would think he's choking him. I would absolutely have thought that. I'm like, I kind of don't, but I'm not a big wrestling person and I don't know the rules or whether that's a legal maneuver or whether it could hurt someone. But I looked at that and I thought I would want my kid out of that situation too.
Right. Now, Al Anonymous says the ref had a few seconds to call it, but didn't. Dad's instinct kicked in.
Yeah.
Didn't want his son paralyzed. And that's why I was bringing it up. I wouldn't give a crap, right? I'm like, okay, I'm going to apparently get kicked out or banned or what have you, whatever the consequence is. But that's better than something happening to my kid. My brother did wrestling very briefly as a freshman in high school, and he dislocated his elbow, I think, or something happened. Yeah, some sort of maneuver, and he was injured very quickly. He never did it again. But yeah, I just feel like if it was your kid in a very aggressive sport like that, I mean, do you just have to abdicate it up to the ref and be like, look, the ref's right there, right next to you, and stay out of it? Ms. Organic says, my niece ranked 7th in the state in girls wrestling. I can't imagine a parent stepping in like that. Yeah, and Vicky says the referee should have stepped in. It was literally, he pointed it and then he was on the mat. Like it really was a split second. And I would also say, and again, I don't know the rules, and I can't really closely see what was going on there. But the fact that the dad may have also been a distraction to the ref, right? Like you're distracting because he's trying to tell you you're not allowed to be on the mat, taking his eyes off what you want his eyes to be on. So there is kind of a reason why you're not allowed to be on the mat, and it's so the referee can also pay attention to what's going on. So I sports, man. That's why I like the fact that my kids do plays. Like,
so that guy was, who was that? He was a parent, but was he also a coach?
He was the volunteer high school coach.
Yeah.
And so he's no longer allowed
Yeah.
He's been banned, obviously, because you can't be on the mat. You can't put your hands
on another child.
on another child, you know?
Even if that
So-
other child is choking the bejesus out of your child.
I know. Well, again, it was a split second, not, you know, but again, it's not a headline that you want to see, but I would never apologize. I'd be like, sorry, I thought that they were going to hurt you. That's my kid. I'd much rather be banned than do that. Yeah. And the again, you guys saw that video right there. Very, very quick. Very quick. Tap me in, bro. Chris says, yeah. Wrestling is one of those. One of my daughter's closest friends tried the girls wrestling for a little bit. I asked her how she liked. She didn't really like it that much because it was co-ed and it was just odd. I think she says, I think the boys felt a little uncomfortable wrestling girls because you get into these positions. Would you be okay with your daughter wrestling boys? And I forget who was saying that their daughter does wrestling.
They do that. The girls, they do take girls on the wrestling mat at Petaluma High School, and they do wrestle against boys.
Okay.
And so I think they wrestle against other boys because there's no girls wrestling team. The girls are on the boys wrestling team if they want to play.
Something's organic. Does your niece only? I'm assuming since it's girls wrestling, she only wrestles girls then. Because gosh, where your face is, where your butt, you know what I mean? Where your hands are.
It's a little personal.
It's distracting. I would say oh yeah, she says only girls. Okay, yeah. I was like,
yeah.
I don't know how I would feel about. Yeah, the position. Yes, the positions, Calvin. Yes, the positions. Have you seen the positions that wrestlers have to get in?
Yeah.
Murphy says it's really hard to see your child possibly injured by another child in sports. My daughter was pushed and tripped at CCS track semifinals to stop her relay team. Oh, I'd be pissed.
Yeah.
See, I'd probably get in trouble too. I'd probably be one of those parents that's like, you can't even
leaping
watch
over the railing.
Yeah, you
marching
can't watch
down
the game
there.
anymore. They're gonna have security keeping an eye out. She's on the list. She's on a list. Yeah. So
No. Luis says it's effing wrestling. If you don't want the risk, have your kid do another activity. There's no justification for that behavior. Yeah. Even though, Luis, if looks like your kid's being choked. Because it looked like he had his arm around his throat.
Yeah. I
guess that's why I'm like, you know what? Enjoy your sports. I'll be in the far back where I can't get to you quickly.
Go sports ball. Okay,
sports ball.
Speaking of injuries, before we do your headlines again, did you hear about this girl? Now, I never really thought about this. This girl's name is Kennedy. She lives in Ohio. And she was getting ready before her cheerleading team for the school basketball game.
Cheerleading. Now you're speaking my language.
So she's getting ready and she decides to paint her nails. Uh-oh. Okay. So I had to take my fingernail polish off because it's not in uniform. And I was taking it off. I had a candle near me on the bed. As I was setting the bottle of nail polish remover down on the bed, the fumes mixed together. The bottle exploded in my hand and it caught me and everything near me on fire.
Oh no.
Yeah, she says her parents were at work at the time, so she was home alone with her 4 siblings, 2 of whom burst into her bedroom after hearing her scream. She was able to put out the fire on her body, and the siblings made it out of the house to call 911 after closing the door to Kennedy's burning bedroom. She's like, it's nothing I've ever been through before. She's in a lot of shock. It was a horrific scene of being covered in bubbles and welts on her skin.
Whoa.
I've never thought, again, I don't know. You know, teenage girls, they have candles on their thing. They're doing all their little beauty stuff. This is a warning. Don't use nail polish remover next to a candle. Yeah, she has burns all the way up from her hand, all the way over her fingers, all the way up to her elbows.
Well, it says on the back, it's flammable, right?
Well, yeah, it is. And I think it's not surprising that it's flammable,
yeah.
But the fumes just being placed near the candle, fumes mixing with the candle, I guess next to her hand, because her hand was right there.
Ouch.
Yeah, ouch. And then one more interesting story. This isn't hurting. This is, murder. Did you hear about this case out of Austin, Texas? This woman, Caitlin Armstrong, she was convicted and sentenced to 90 years in prison for killing somebody back in November. She killed pro cyclist, Anna Moriah Wilson, in 2022 because it was like she was jealous that she was like in some sort of love triangle. Okay. So investigators, she takes off though, this woman, Caitlin Armstrong takes off. She's on the run. Okay. So investigators have been looking for her and they believed that she was in Costa Rica. Okay. Looking for work as a yoga instructor. They couldn't find her. So you know what they did? They put an ad on a local Facebook page seeking a yoga instructor as soon as possible. Several days go by with no response. And finally a woman answers and the woman turns out to be Armstrong. She had apparently cut it and darkened her hair. She had plastic surgery on her nose.
This is the lady that killed the cyclist, right?
Yes, the rising cyclist, Anna Moriah Wilson.
Mm-hmm.
She had the exact same eyes, though, and she was arrested. Imagine being so hard up for work because you're on the lam for murder that you answer a job posting, and that's how they get you. So
Busted.
Caitlin Armstrong behind bars for murder because she answered a job posting. So just be careful, people. Just be careful.
Crazy.
All right, let's do some headlines because after headlines, Tim Sika will be here with us. He'll tell us what to watch and what to stream. I watched a lot of things. I told you on Monday. I watched The Killers of the Flower Moon. What else did I watch? Poor Things. Did Tim Sika give us his review of Poor Things? I can't remember.
He said it was weird, but worth watching. And
yes.
That he really, really liked it.
Yes. And that's exactly the right review. If you have a chance to see Poor Things, whether it's in the theaters or streaming or whatever, do it. It is so weird, but it is so, so good. All right. Click the thumbs up button. Show your support for the show. Again, thank you to Spencer for giving us a $5 donation to our super chat. You can donate by clicking the $ in the live chat box, and we always appreciate each and every dollar that we get. And here's Kim with some headlines.
Now, from around the world to up your street, the Nikki Medoro Show presents News Czar Kim McAllister.
This is attorney Roberta Kaplan, and she represents clients in high-profile cases against Donald Trump, including E. Jean Carroll. And she went on a George Conway show. George Conway, who wasn't he the one married to Kellyanne Conway?
Yeah, Kellyanne Conway's husband.
So she goes on the podcast, and she says former President Trump threw papers across a table and stormed off during a deposition at Mar-a-Lago. Why? Because he found out that his legal team agreed to buy or provide Roberta Kaplan lunch.
What?
Through an absolute tantrum fit, throwing papers across the table, storming off at this deposition.
Wow.
She said you could kind of see the wheel spinning in his brain. She's talking on this to George Conway on this podcast. She goes, and he said, well, you're here in Mar-a-Lago. What do you think you're going to do for lunch? Where are you going to get lunch? At which point there was a huge pile of documents, exhibits sitting in front of him, she says, and he took the pile and he threw it across the table and he stormed out of the room. He really yelled at Alina Habba, his lawyer, for that. He was so mad at her. He came back in and said, well, how'd you like the lunch? And I said, well, sir, I had a banana. I can never really eat when I'm taking testimony. And he said, well, I told you.
Oh, my God. He is such a child. Yeah, Spencer, Trump is such a baby. That is... you know what he's probably thinking? He's like, I'm paying for it then. If the lawyers are paying for it, then I'm paying for it. And this chick ain't eating any of my food.
He said, I told them to make you really bad sandwiches, but they can't help themselves here. We have the best sandwiches.
Oh, my God. Yeah. Best. Remember when he was like, we have the best taco salads or some crap? Like, he's so weird. He's such an odd. He's such a child. He's such a child.
Is that the craziest thing?
I mean, it's so typical.
Holy
I swear, it's so
moly.
typical.
I mean, wow. I guess, you can act out against the attorney that's representing the person that you despise, but just so juvenile. Okay, let's talk about this other case, including involving Fonnie Willis. She's now responding to the allegations of having an affair and the effort to disqualify her from the Trump case. So she says the court filing is salacious. She called the allegations salacious about an affair between her and Nathan Wade, who is her top deputy on this case. And she said the allegations do not reach the legal grounds required for her to be disqualified from the Georgia election interference case. She said while the allegations raised in various motions are salacious and garnered the media attention they were designed to get, none provide this court with any basis upon which to order the relief they seek, which is her off the case.
I mean, it screams they're scared, right? It screams that. And again, they have to prove that there is some sort of illegal use of funds or something like that. And I try to be fair. If you can prove it and there's a justification for it, then prove it. But just making these allegations isn't enough.
No, it isn't. And they'll do anything they can. And remember, it's the one case where if he is elected president, he can't pardon himself from a state case, right?
Right.
So, I mean, they're really coming out swinging on this one, right?
Exactly.
I'm telling you. So these 3 men found frozen to death at a Kansas City Chiefs watch party had 3 times the lethal amount of fentanyl along with cocaine and THC. This is according to toxicology reports.
Oh, no.
The men were discovered at their friend Jordan Willis's Kansas City home in his backyard on January 9th, 2 days after the game. No charges filed. The case remains under investigation, although Willis, who owned the home or was living at the home, has now checked himself into rehab. Now toxicology results show these guys were hopped up on all kinds of drugs.
So he was doing the same drugs as his friends. And I'm imagining what happened. They're all high. They're partying their asses off. He stays home because it's his house. They leave. They're all effed up. And they just sit down and it's weird though. Why do they just sit outside? And how does he not know? You didn't go outside for 2 days? Does that see? And they all died at the same time?
Remember they said that they were banging on the window that night or banging on the door that night. And he's like, I guess he was, was inebriated or whatever. Right. And so maybe they were panicking in the backyard. Then it was so cold that night that was it for them.
But I mean, they couldn't go to anybody else's house. Where does he live? In the middle of friggin' nowhere? Can't you call? I mean, and
remember they have lethal amounts of all kinds of medication or drugs in their system, right? So what was it? Lethal amount of fentanyl, cocaine, and THC. They were not in their right mind. I would imagine.
It's crazy. That fentanyl stuff. I mean, Jesus, Lord Almighty.
Tesla. Not this particular Tesla, but Tesla is recalling more than 2 million vehicles over claims the warning lights on the display panel are too small. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration announcing the recall, saying it found the issue during a routine audit. Owners will not have to bring their vehicles in because it will all be fixed through an over-the-air software update.
That is so cool, though. I mean, I will say that is always the coolest thing about Tesla whenever they seem to have a lot of these recalls. But then did you also see that Tesla, the Fremont factory, is being accused of dumping toxic stuff into the environment?
I did see that.
And it's so funny. It's like this car company that's supposed to be helping the environment by not, obviously building cars, you create toxic stuff. But then they're going to go ahead and just pollute the environment anyway. Stupid.
It's pretty crazy though. They're being sued by 25 California counties for not properly disposing of hazardous materials, not training their employees how to handle the hazardous materials, and not labeling them properly as well. So this is a problem. Did you hear that yesterday in Sonoma County, actually not too far from me, there was the first tornado in more than a decade?
Oh,
I know. We don't get these up here, but you can kind of see it there. See that white funnel?
Yeah.
Yeah. many are wondering if we could get more tornadoes with the next batch of storms. This one caught on video yesterday near Petaluma in Sonoma County. It was out near Middle Two Rock. It's a community that's maybe halfway between Petaluma and Bodega Bay.
Okay.
So kind of in the rolling hills and farming area out there. A National Weather Service team in Northern California won't confirm yet if a tornado actually touched down or if it was just a funnel cloud.
Right.
They plan to visit the area first to survey any damage, but it's all, again, rolling hills, agricultural area out here. No reports of damage or injury to cows or people or anybody else. But what a picture. Wow.
Yeah. And so it has to touch down to be a tornado. They're going to look for damage. But I've seen that. I remember one time I was working in Sacramento, and off in the distance, I'm like, is that a tornado? And it ended up just being a funnel cloud because it didn't touch down. But yeah, it's crazy.
Apparently this man had moved here from Texas, and he's like, I thought my days of tornadoes were all done. I
didn't come here for that.
I didn't come here for this. And was doing some type of maintenance work. His job had taken him out to Middle Two Rock, and he goes, I look up and I see this, and he's like, aren't we in California? How's this even possible?
He's like, wildfires and earthquakes, okay. Tornadoes, no. We're not adding to the, cacophony of natural disasters that are possible.
My daughter, her horseback riding place that she goes to, the barn, is out in Middle Two Rock.
Oh, really?
So it's really, really pretty out there. I mean, you can see the landscape. It's just beautiful rolling hills, greenery. It's, cows dotting the hills and trees. It's just really pretty out there, unless there's a funnel cloud.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. A big tree, speaking of storm damage, came down in Los Altos. Lights are coming back on in Santa Clara County, but a 75-foot tree fell in a Los Altos neighborhood during yesterday's storm, took down power lines, damaged the water system even.
Wow.
PG&E crews had to work all through the night to clear out this pine tree so they can fix power poles and restore service out there. Cal Water also has to make repairs once that work is done. They were providing bottled water to people in the area who had their water affected and knocked out by this. So yeah, that was a big tree.
Yeah, and when you hear about they don't have water, they don't have electricity, it's obviously blocking the road. Jeez. And that's a big ass tree.
Yeah, it took a while to cut that bad boy down.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big one. That's a big boy.
Yes, it is.
In Berkeley, this is a place where I'm going to say it's very liberal, but there's you think of civil liberties, they think of a lot of about people's rights, and well, they also are worried about crime along with much of the Bay Area, and so they're getting more surveillance cameras to fight crime, and you can imagine the backlash on this. The city voted this week to add 6 of these surveillance cameras near transit stations after reports of an elderly woman being attacked. The council already approved 10 cameras last year, but only 1 has been installed due to staffing shortages. Police say while overall crime is down 22%, assault and battery cases are up 29% in Berkeley. The cameras, they say, will only be used for investigations. Only.
Okay.
Can't just log in and check out what's happening in the area. Right?
Yeah. I mean, I think anything that helps, we have to do. You know what I mean? Like, I understand privacy and people might not like, but there's cameras everywhere. Like, at this point, just get over it. We need to solve these crimes.
I mean, I would think so. I don't know. It's always this balance of what's more important. Is it a weird balance where we have to look at our freedoms and our civil liberties versus safety and security and how to balance the two?
Yeah.
It's an ongoing issue. TikTok has become one of the most popular sources for financial tips and advice, particularly among Generation Z.
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
Gen Zers are nearly 5 times more likely to get financial advice from social media than adults in their 40s or older. Mm-hmm. That according to a creditcards.com report. But only 20% of so-called finfluencer, financial finfluencers content that contained investment recommendations included any form of disclosure. That according to the CFA Institute. So they're giving all this advice, but they're not really disclosing that maybe they could benefit from it, or what's happening.
Right. They don't know
getting financial advice off TikTok.
Well, okay, so I am on TikTok. I don't spend a lot of time. I really just post my videos and then leave. But what I do see oftentimes is these young people, young adults, and they'll be like, they're either promoting some sort of investment scheme. Hey, if you want to know some tips and tricks, follow me for more. A lot of the one thing that I see oftentimes, Kim, is they are promoting using life insurance as an investment, which I've always heard is not a good idea. No. But, these short 30-second to 60-second videos that make it seem like everyone's I made $1 million last year by posting 2 videos a day. It's BS. I mean, I hope that these people's BS detector is up, but you got to do your due diligence. Don't just follow anybody just because they're on TikTok and you see them all the time.
Lastly, Michael Jordan's fans are getting a chance to step into his shoes for a price. 6 shoes that Jordan wore during all 6 of his NBA championship games are on the auction block at Sotheby's. The individual shoes, not pairs, are signed by Jordan. They could fetch between $7 to $10 million. So you're not getting one? 2. 1 shoe per customer. Thank you very much.
Okay.
I will say, I was looking at this ESPN article, and a complete set. So I guess that's 2 sets. 2 shoes, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I'd be only have 2 feet. Yes.
Is that a complete set? I don't know. A complete set of his Air Jordan sneakers that he wore while clinching victories of his 6 NBA titles and 6 NBA Finals MVPs sold for $8,032,000.
Wow.
That was as of 2 hours ago. So yeah.
That's crazy.
And they thought it would go from between 8 to 10. And
right? These are now. I'm sorry.
They're signed, by the way. They're
Were
signed.
They worn?
Yeah, he wore them during the NBA Finals. Yeah.
Okay, what's the over/under on how many people smell them?
You get them in the mail. You take a little sniffy sniff.
Oh, they're. Damn well if you are spending that much money on a shoe worn by Michael Jordan, you're sniffing it. Talk about feet.
So yeah, he wore these during all 6 of his NBA championship games. That's why there's 1 shoe from each.
Yeah, because they can make more money that way than giving you both, obviously.
Right.
Wow. 8 million.
And I think when they say the complete set, I mean that's all 6 shoes.
Oh,
yeah.
But they're only one of the pair.
That's right.
So you can't actually wear them.
No, you can't wear them. But you wouldn't anyway because that's a kind of collector's item, right?
You would put your feet in it though, I would say, right? I mean, you'd have to try it on. I mean, come on. You guys are acting weird. I am sorry, but if you spend $8 million, you're smelling the shoe. I'd smell this. I'm not buying them, but yeah, you'd want to see what it smells like.
$8 million for 6 individual shoes. I'm telling you, this report is sponsored by you. We don't have Michael Jordan shoe money, that's for sure.
No.
But check us out at thenikkimedoroshow.com, thenikkimedoroshow.com, where the Patreon and PayPal links live. The super sticker's still open here, and thank you for all the ways you support the show. I'm Kim McAllister on The Nikki Medoro Show.
Thank you, Kim. I'm sorry if that grossed you people out. I know damn well if somebody bought shoes that were worn by Michael Jordan, they're smelling them. There is no ifs, ands, or buts. They are going to smell the shoe. Just to see if it smells. I mean, he played a long ass time ago. They may not smell people. It's not like he just took them off. I mean, stop it already.
Do you put your nose in places where you could perhaps smell something horrible on purpose?
A baby's butt. Tell me you didn't do that every single time.
You sniff it. My son wanted me to smell his armpit yesterday.
Oh, is he starting to get a little bit of
he gets
smell?
A little funk. Mm-hmm. Get a little funk. And so he has deodorant that he wears.
Of course, yes.
But someone at school, they were joking around back and forth, and they said, "You smell like a dead fish." And they're like, "Well, you smell like a blank." "Well, you smell like a blank." So he's telling me about that someone told him he smells like a dead fish, and I'm like, "Oh," he goes, "Smell my armpit." And I'm like, I
Do you
don't
love
think
when people
so.
do that?
Why don't you just go take a shower, rinse it off, and reapply your deodorant, and that'll fix the problem without me having to shove my nose in your armpit.
I love when people do that. They're like, "Oh, this is awful. Smell it. This
Smell
is
it.
awful. Taste it." I'm like,
Exactly.
"No. How about no? How
No,
about I
thank
not
you.
join you in that misery? How about that?
No.
Thank you, but no, thank you." All right, it is Friday, so let's talk some movies and what to stream with our friend Tim Sika.
Hey, ladies, how are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Good. Pretty good. Pretty
All
good.
right.
Can't
So
complain.
I want to let you know that I saw 2 movies last weekend.
Ooh.
I saw Killers of the Flower Moon, which was pretty
Yeah.
good.
Uh-huh.
I finally finished Oppenheimer. I've been trying to watch it like for 3 days. I finished that. That was pretty good. But my favorite, and Kim reminded me that you liked it too, although it was weird, Poor Things. So
Yeah.
good. I loved it. I really,
Yeah.
really liked it. So
Yeah, where have you ever seen a movie that's even remotely like Poor Things?
Never.
I've never.
Never.
Yeah.
It
No,
was really good. And I
yeah.
understand why Emma Stone is nominated. She did such a good job. I was cracking up. It was really, really funny as well. So yeah, I totally 10 stars. So go and see that one if you guys haven't seen it.
That performance, that character, I always wondered like what it looked like on the page. It probably looked
Right.
like nothing on the page, but what she brought to it was like friggin' genius. I mean,
Yeah.
she was just amazing. Just
Yeah,
amazing. Yeah.
She was really,
yeah.
really good. All right, so
Yeah.
let's get into what we can watch in the theaters and start with Sometimes I Think About Dying. That sounds like an upbeat movie, Tim.
Yeah, well, you know, it kind of is in a way. This is what I call an impressionistic piece of cinema. It was the opening night film of last year's Sundance Film Festival. So it looks and vibes what used to be primarily emblematic of a Sundance type of movie, you know, very indie vibey and looking like, you know, minimal budget locations, but it's got a real strong narrative, and it stars Daisy Ridley. And Daisy Ridley played Rey in 3 of the newer Star Wars movies. You know, she was that character that, you know, that.
Oh yeah, that is her.
That is her.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's a British actress, and she's in this,
really
and
good.
she plays this. She's a really, really good actress. And when you look at the Star Wars movies and you look at this, you can't believe it's the same person. But she, in this movie, she plays a socially awkward office worker who is pretty isolated, even though she's around people at her job. Mostly she's isolated in her head, socially awkward in terms of her day-to-day interactions with people. When she's not at the office, you know, her personal time kind of consists of, you know, sleeping, eating, doing word puzzles, going back and forth to work, barely saying anything to anybody. The only thing she seems to like is her job, which she thinks she's good at, and cottage cheese. Yeah, don't ask about that thing. But anyway, and in between all of this, she has these like mental flights of fantasy and fancy rather, where she imagines herself dead, having died. Yeah, so it sounds kind of morbid, but all this changes one day when this new guy is hired in the office and who shows an interest in her and kind of likes her because she's kind of weird and kind of different. So one night he invites her out to see a movie, and this movie completely worked for me. It was charming. It was nicely photographed. Most of it was filmed on the West Coast in Oregon and Washington State. It was very quirky, very sweet, very different kind of love story for one. And it was also one of those kind of movie, kind of like a cautionary tale about, you know, living your life now instead of like preparing to live your life in the future. You know, what society tells us we need to prepare in order to live a good and secure life in the future. You know, we got to save our money because we're going to retire, blah, blah, blah. So this movie kind of addresses those issues too. It's directed by a gal named Rachel Lambert. I cannot believe how many movies are being directed by women. I
love it.
I just wanted to acknowledge that because I think it's absolutely great. It's based on some play called Killers. And it's charmingly and affectionately odd and offbeat with a music score that contributes to the movie's odd and offbeat sensibility. And to kind of sum it up, like I said, it just works. Everything about it comes together because the writing is so good, the direction is so good. It's very understanding of the film's content and the protagonist, and the ensemble is great. Daisy Ridley is She's fabulous in this. The other thing I loved about this movie, and anybody who's ever worked in an office will identify, is how the film captured what it's like to actually work in an office with the like the office chit chat among the employees.
Yes.
Their reactions when somebody brings in a box of donuts. All the coffee drinking, the meetings.
Celebration, woohoo!
Yeah, right, exactly. Like, oh yeah, and everybody's trying to grab the good donuts and everything. And like the meetings, with these, like they have, at least in my experience working in office, that we would have meetings with opening icebreaker exercises.
Oh, I hate that.
Yeah, I know. I hate it too. But anyway, all that's in this movie. They poke fun at it, and I really like that. I just thought it was a wonderful idiosyncratic movie. Yeah, and a unique love story. It's a unique
and the headline is a little. It leaves a lot to be desired for some people watching, but we all die, so it's
we all
something to
die.
think about.
Yes, but it's also it's funny and it's sweet too. I know the movie, when you look at that the poster there, it looks like it's this heavy drama, and it really isn't. It's not at all. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, let's look at this one now. The Promised Land.
Yeah, this is a Danish epic.
So it's not in English.
No, it's not. Yeah, but it doesn't matter. It's one of those foreign language. It's one of the foreign language pictures of 2023, which made the short list of best international feature nominees for this year's Oscars. It fell short of making it in the top 5, but it squeaked into the initial short list, which is a big deal because I think like 60 countries are in contention. So anyway, the story takes place in Denmark in the 18th century, and it's really a drama about colonialism. But the Danish actor Mads Mikkelsen, his face is so ideal for the cinema and for the camera. The camera loves this guy because without speaking, his face conveys so much, and it has this vocabulary all of its own. Anyway, in The Promised Land, he plays the illegitimate son of a nobleman and a scullery maid. The Danish title for the film, incidentally, is translated into English as The Bastard. Oh. So anyway, he plays the illegitimate son of a nobleman and a maid. And servants at that time were often raped by their wealthy employers, who then just, if the woman got pregnant, they just disposed of the child at an orphanage or a convent or something. So he's this bastard, but is determined to like elevate his societal status. And he hopes to do that by taming this vast piece of the king's land called the Heath of Jutland. This is all based on a real historic character and what he did and the area in which he was trying to tame. But the land, it was considered untamable. The elements are brutal, the soil's barren, the area is plagued by outlaws. And everyone in the past who tried to tame this land always failed. But Mads Mikkelsen, he proposes to the king that he'll tame it, he'll grow food on it, and then he'll bring settlers to live on it, which will make the monarchy look great, but only in exchange for a noble title, ownership of the land, and servants. So that's the premise.
Okay.
And it sets the stage for a classic high drama. This is the kind of epic storytelling that we don't see much of anymore on screen. So it's a real welcome event to experience this movie in the kind of David Lean, Lawrence of Arabia, Dr. Zhivago tradition of epic storytelling, where personal sagas are set against epic historical backdrops. And it's terrific. Beautifully shot, and in that classic epic tradition, and it pulls you in right from the get-go. Once it starts, I always, this is a terrible thing to admit, but only because it's more work for me. Whenever I approach a foreign language film, I have to kind of gird my loins to say, okay, I got to really pay attention because I have to read everything.
Right.
You forget that this movie is in subtitles. It's such a riveting story, and it's brutal.
Nice.
It's brutal, which is occasionally softened a bit by some really tender and emotional moments. At times, the cruelty is a bit, I don't know, it's like overripe in its presentation here, but I think they did that deliberately because when the bully of this piece gets his comeuppance, the satisfaction that you feel is like you want to get up and cheer. So it's a terrific movie. It's a rattling good tale. And it's also I found it to be a moving testament to family, but not so much the family that that we were born into, but the family that we choose. It was really, it was beautiful. And I don't want to go into much more.
Okay, so that gets a big thumbs up. All right,
it's a big thumbs up. Yeah,
so good that we had this review from you, because I would have taken one look at the
and said no.
title and said, "Oh, it must be a Holy Roller movie," and moved on.
No, oh no, not at all. But the only thing I want to just caution people that are thinking of going to see this is it's pretty brutal.
I'm in then.
Yeah, and because it explores all these themes of racism and prejudice and class and sexual abuse too, and just like exploiting people that don't have money. And it can get pretty violent.
All right, well, a palate cleanser of sorts, I'm thinking, is the next movie, which is Argyle. Now, this is the movie that I was mentioning earlier at the start of the show. I can't get away from the trailers for this.
Right,
everywhere.
I think I have seen the trailer for this movie, which heavily focuses on this cat with like flat ears named Alfie.
That's named Argyle, I'm assuming.
No, his name is Alfie. Don't ask. Okay. Anyway, I saw this trailer more times than I've seen any other trailer this year for any other movie. And I don't really see trailers, because when I go to critics screenings, they don't show trailers, but I've been seeing this trailer everywhere. So
so before you go into this, when you see a trailer a lot, and I know that you just said you don't see a lot of them, but when you do, Kim and I were debating this. I say, if I see a trailer a lot, especially early before it's even released, they're putting a lot of money. They really think the movie is going to be good. And if you see it like a week or the week it is being released, they didn't put any money into it, and the movie's going to suck. Kim feels the opposite.
Well, I feel like the more you see a trailer, the worse the movie is. The more they have to advertise it, the worse it's like, this has got to suck.
That is funny, because that was my impression with this one. And in retrospect, I think it was a bit of a red flag, because this is like a meta comedy satire spy caper that's supposed to be an ode to like the 1980s action thrillers like Die Hard and Lethal Weapon and some James Bond and maybe Mission Impossible thrown in the mix. And it's basically about an author of spy novels played by Bryce Dallas Howard, Ron Howard's his oldest daughter. Good actress too.
Yes.
Let's just say she plays a spy novel author, and she gets in over her head in real life when what she's been writing about in her spy novels and imaginary fantasy life gets her head in real life. I don't know how to explain this, because it's very meta, but what she's been writing about, she starts to experience in like real life, and it gets real like, it gets crazy. Sam Rockwell's in this, Bryan Cranston's in this, Catherine O'Hara, Henry Cavill.
Is this tied to the Kingsman, or is there a connection to the Kingsman? Okay.
Yes, it's directed by Matthew Vaughn, who directed a couple of the X-Men movies, that crazy Kick-Ass movie, and the Kingsman movie. So it's flashy, it's comic, it's clever, but for all of its cleverness, it's also kind of anemic. I kept asking myself, why is this so boring? This is really, I found it dull, and I'm going, why is it so long? It's like almost like 2.5 hours long.
Oh, wow. That is
so
long.
the length was a problem too, I think. I didn't get it, because when I saw it was Matthew Vaughn, I thought, the fact that it grew tiresome and repetitive so early in the game, instead of like building upon the energies of movies like the Kingsman franchise and movies like Kick-Ass, that was a mystery to me. I didn't get it. I found the whole thing a slog.
Oh no! Okay.
I did see it at a critic screening, but there was an invited audience, and nobody hardly reacted to any of it. So it wasn't just me.
Okay.
So I don't have too much else to say about Argyle. It's okay, I guess, but despite what seemed to be clever thought that went into it, it just kind of, to be blunt, fell flat. And I'm going, that's why they kept inundating me with
hounding us with those trailers. Okay. Last one, this one, I feel like we've talked about this before, because this movie, when I looked for the picture, it came out in 2022, but I guess it's at a film festival now.
Well, that's interesting, because I've been following this movie a lot on its festival circuit, and I think it did have a brief theatrical run in the UK.
Okay.
And I could be wrong, but I don't think it ever got a US theatrical release. Certainly not a Bay Area one, but it is, and I want to talk about that. But anyway, this this is, guess what, a documentary, more of a documentary essay about the films of Alfred Hitchcock. It's written and directed and photographed and edited by a guy named Mark Cousins. He's a great film historian, and he's without peer the foremost movie essayist working today. He's done a lot of great work anyway, but and it's about this is a movie. He makes these movies which are more like essays than conventional documentaries, which make you think about film and films which you maybe thought you already knew in new and different ways. He wants to find an essay film as thinking films that take ideas for a walk, and that's what he does in this ode to Alfred Hitchcock. My Name is Alfred Hitchcock, which is divided into these 6 sections: escape, desire, loneliness, time, fulfillment, and height. And he submits for our consideration how these different components relate to the films of Alfred Hitchcock and Alfred Hitchcock's style of movie making. Because Hitchcock was, in my book, he's one of the few directors whose movies, even though I know I've seen them dozens of times, I know how they're going to play out. I can still watch them because they're just so rich. He was not only a filmmaking genius and not only a singular artist, but an artist for the audience. Hitchcock loved and revered his audiences, and he made his movies for audiences. And he also understood the commerce of movie making, the business of movie making, and he understood the necessity of having, the business end and the artistic end working alongside each other side by side. Not a lot of directors, well, Spielberg probably is one, but Hitchcock really got that, but he still made uncompromising, very artistic, but always super entertaining movies. This movie's narrated by Alistair McGowan in the voice of Alfred Hitchcock. So that's kind of a fun conceit, because we get quote unquote Hitchcock talking through this movie for 2 hours, and it's impossible to encapsulate all of what this movie covers, but we get to see a lot of clips of films a lot of people don't know about. Hitchcock started in silent films, and he directed a lot of interesting silent films, but then we also get all the clips of movies like The Birds and Rope and Psycho and Rear Window and Vertigo, and they all get their due here. But it's the text of the movie that's so thought-provoking, like how Hitchcock pulled you into his movies, making you, or with his goal of making you have the experience that the characters in the movie were experiencing. Because the way he would shoot them is he'd shoot them from your perspective, but the focus was on the person that was being stabbed to death, and how his complicated Catholic upbringing and his later personal life. He was married to the same woman for 52 years, Alma Revel, who worked with him on every movie. She was his story editor, and a lot of people say the movies were more her than him, and he would not make a movie unless she approved of it. So they worked closely together, and delicious is the best adjective to describe this movie. And with Hitchcock's films, you get everything. Everything is there. William Friedkin, the director of The Exorcist and The French Connection, he always said it best about Hitchcock. He would tell aspiring film directors, don't go to film school. And he would say to them, if you want to make movies, all you have to do, and I agree with him, is study the films of Alfred Hitchcock, because everything you need to know about movies is there. There's drama, suspense, comedy, there's romance, there's glamour, and how to tell a story visually without any dialogue at all. So anyway, I mentioned that, about this movie being released. It does say 2002, but I think here's the thing. The reason I was able to see it and finally get an opportunity to watch it and talk about it now is because it's going to be screened at the annual San Francisco Mostly British Film Festival on Monday, February 19th, 2:30 p.m. at the Vogue Theater. It's a total delight to see this film on the big screen, and I can't recommend San Francisco's Mostly British Film Festival enough. I think it's their 16th year. It's running this year from February 15th to the 22nd. It's wonderful Anglophile themed movies and run by really wonderful people who love movies and who are just great to deal with. So
sweet. And so My Name is Alfred Hitchcock will be playing there.
Yeah, at the Mostly British Film Festival on Monday, February 19th at the Vogue Theater, 2 p.m. Sorry for the shameless plug, but
No, of course, and that is
I love
awesome.
that. I love that film festival, and I really like the people who run it. They're really
that's
great
awesome.
people.
All right,
Yeah.
and that's the 19th of this month. So if you're interested, go check that out.
Yeah.
All right, Tim Sika, thank you so very much. You have a fabulous weekend. We love your reviews.
Oh, well, thank
And
you,
we'll talk
ladies.
to you
Thank
next
so
week.
much. Okay, talk to you next week. Have a
Okay.
good weekend. Okay,
Bye-bye.
bye-bye.
Bye.
That is Tim Sika. Yes, indeed. So he liked pretty much all of them except Argyle. So
Yeah.
take that for what it is. I was excited to see Argyle because I like the Kingsman movies, and I kind of felt like it was in the same vein. But I guess according to Tim, that one just didn't land very well.
No.
Let me give some thank yous before we end the show. Spencer started us off with a $5 donation.
Thank you,
Ms.
Spencer.
Organic came in with a $10 super sticker.
Yay.
And Jess, thanks for all the advice. Have a great
Yep.
weekend. Thank you, Jess, for the $5 donation as well. You can donate even during the replay. Just look for the $sign in the live chat. And please, you guys, donate to our Patreon. We want to keep the show going. We love the community that we formed here. It is growing every day. So go to theNikkiMedoroShow.com, theNikkiMedoroShow.com. The Patreon link is there. Remember, it's just one time a month, and we really appreciate all of you. PayPal, go to PayPal.com. Hit the send button and then put in the email, theNikkiMedoroShow@gmail.com. And we love you guys oh so very much. All right, we will be back on Monday. Stay dry, stay safe.
Woo-hoo.
Love you guys. Stay here for
It's
Mark
the weekend.
Thompson and the after party. Bye-bye.
Nikki, you're all so awesome. You sprout like a beautiful blossom. You're also the best. I really can't rest. You're all so awesome.
Wow. Okay.